Next on AABJ's In Contact. October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month and walks around the city of Atlanta are helping to spread awareness for life-saving treatment and support. We'll have highlights coming up. Plus, we'll take a closer look at where we are today in the fight against breast cancer.
Be informed, we gotta know what's going on in our community. So together we can make a change, you and me.
Welcome to In Contact, Atlanta Association of Black Journalists award-winning public affairs program that brings you community news you can use. I'm your host, Paisley Moore. We come to you from AIB, our partner in Midtown Atlanta. October is recognized as Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and efforts are going strong nationwide to spread awareness. According to the American Cancer Society, breast cancer is the most common cancer in women in the United States, next to skin cancers. The American Cancer Society estimates for breast cancer in the United States for 2022, there are nearly 290,000 new cases of invasive breast cancer diagnosis among women. Here in Atlanta, awareness walks are taking place to help shine the light on all the research, medical treatment, and community support for breast cancer prevention, and to help put an end to this disease. The Susan G. Komen More Than Pink Walk took place on September 24th in Lenox Square in Buckhead. In Contact's Kim Betton was there and has the story.
The beautiful color pink flooded Lenox Square in Buckhead bright and early on the morning of September 24th for the Susan G. Komen More Than Pink Walk. Thousands of participants made the trek to raise critical funds to support breast cancer patients and health equity programs across the Atlanta metro area. Walkers such as Sharon King, who says she's a breast cancer survivor who is proud to be here to help save lives of those who have walked in her footsteps.
I've been doing a walk for like 3 years. 3 years ago, I was walking for my sister and for my mom. And then in 2019, I was diagnosed with breast cancer. So now I'm walking for myself and for everybody that can't walk.
Cheers from event staff and volunteers welcomed walkers from the start and all through the winding roads and onward to the finish line. Susan G. Komen officials here say every step is a step in the right direction.
So this walk is a fundraiser to essentially save lives. When you drill down on it, 44,000 people are going to pass away from breast cancer this year in the United States. Every 2 minutes someone in the world is diagnosed with breast cancer. 9,000 people in Georgia will be diagnosed with breast cancer. So everything that we do saves life, and the work is important here in Atlanta because Atlanta is one of the cities that was cited one of the cities in America where we see the most breast care disparities. We have a Stand For Her initiative, which is targeted for African American women. Because of the African American women who live in Metro Atlanta who get diagnosed with breast cancer, nearly 50% of them will pass away from the disease because of health equity and inequities.
For many here, the More Than Pink Walk goes beyond today. It's the beginning of a lifestyle change.
Keep going. Don't ever stop. Keep fighting. Okay,
find the community. Find the community.
Yes.
Such a special community.
Supporters are the best people in the world.
It means a lot to me from losing someone that I love, and so suddenly. So that's why I feel that I wanted to come out and just remember her and all the other survivors.
Mm-hmm. All right, and for me, I'm out here because I have dealt with a lot of family members that have had breast cancer or some form of cancer, so I try to do as many community events as I can to show my support.
I'm out here walking for breast cancer today because I am a 3-year breast cancer survivor. I'm not only surviving, but I'm thriving.
I am walking today because I am a breast cancer survivor. Early detection is key. Early detection saved my life.
And for King, she too is optimistic for brighter days ahead for all.
Well, with me, it was all about attitude. When I first found out, I was devastated. But from day one, I went into fight mode, and I've been fighting ever since. And I wanted to show my daughter and granddaughters that regardless of what life throws at us, we're women, we're strong, and we can do it.
In Buckhead, Kim Betton for AABJ's In Contact.
Thank you, Kim, for that report. For more information about the More Than Pink Walk, visit Komen.org. Meanwhile, I got a chance to speak with a veteran Black journalist who has been fighting breast cancer since 2020, just as the pandemic began. Her name is Sonia Goins. She's a television reporter and producer who worked on the national front lines for BET News when it first launched years ago, before moving onward to working as a primetime producer at WCCO-TV in Minneapolis, Minnesota. And now she's on air in that market as a news reporter as well. I spoke with Sonia recently about her passion to use her cancer diagnosis and journey to help others. Sonia Goins, thanks so much for joining us to share your story about being a breast cancer survivor. Being that it is Breast Cancer Awareness Month, can you first start by telling us what your life was like just before your diagnosis?
Great. First of all, thanks for having me. It's an honor to share my story and get out the message about breast cancer awareness. I should give you a little background on me. I live in Minneapolis. I have 3 adult children. I'm a journalist for a community television station here in the Twin Cities. And in 2020, I was diagnosed with breast cancer, but before that, 6 months prior, I had my colon removed due to Crohn's disease. So 2020 was like a rough year for me, but I don't know, looking back, because it's been 2 years, it seems like it just happened yesterday that I was diagnosed. It was during COVID, and to be honest with you, if it hadn't been for COVID, I don't know if I would have necessarily found a lump in my right breast, because I was running around, used to running around, and with COVID, we were all just, chilling, watching Netflix, and I was paying more attention to my body, and I found a lump, and I was like, what is this? Because I'd had a mammogram the year before, so I really didn't think it was breast cancer. I thought it was because I had just started working out, like a new workout routine, and I thought, oh, maybe it's sore muscles, but it wasn't. I finally got in to see the doctor, and they not only found a lump, but they found also a lump in my lymph nodes. I mean, they could actually feel it. At that point, they're like, you need a 3D mammogram. We need to find out what's going on. My message to everybody, especially Black women, please get your 3D mammogram. I mean, the fact that I had a regular mammogram the year before, and then a year later, they found, 3 small tumors, and then 1 in my lymph node. And I was diagnosed with stage 2 HER2 positive breast cancer. HER2 positive breast cancer is very aggressive. Basically, HER2 positive is an extra protein that causes cancer cells to grow. So right away, they're just like, we got to start treatment. I'm just like thinking, am I going to be there to see my kids graduate, get married? Am I going to live? All these things run through your head.
Let's start right there where you said, you were after having a regular mammogram, and then, a year later, you take a 3D mammogram, which is obviously differentiated from a regular one, and you discover, this tumor. What was your reaction when you just to find out that, hey, we've discovered something?
Man, there's a whole range of emotions that went through my head, from being very angry to being sad and depressed. I'm typically a positive person. I'm not gonna lie to you. The nurse called me. I'll never forget. I was cooking dinner. The nurse called me, and when she said, you have, stage 2 breast cancer, HER2 positive, I fell on the kitchen floor. I was just like, what? I was in shock. And the first thing that went through my head was like I said, am I going to be there for my kids? What next? Between me and you, I didn't have time to cry. I had to I'm a television reporter. I had to get some research. The first thing I did was research, what is HER2 positive breast cancer? And I had never heard of it before, And then when I found out it was really aggressive, I'm like, am I going to live? So at that point, I prayed really hard. And then I was like, between God and the medical professions, I'm going to have to give this all I have, So 3 weeks after that, I started chemo. And I got really sick right away. I was in the hospital 6 times during chemo. And they told me, they said, if I hadn't had my colon removed, due to Crohn's disease, I probably wouldn't have made it through chemo. So that was the hard part. But I decided, you know what? I'm gonna, live my life the best I can. So all through chemo and all through my breast cancer treatments, I danced my way on TikTok just to show my family members that I was okay. You know what I mean? And I was just like, if I'm gonna die tomorrow, I better live a good life and be positive about it. So it's been rough. I had my treatment was like crazy long. So I had chemo, then after that I had to wait 6 weeks, and then I had a double mastectomy with reconstructive surgery at the same time. And then after that I had a little bit of a break, and then I had 25 rounds of radiation. And then because of the HER2 positive, it's very aggressive. They started me on what they call targeted chemo, which is supposed to lessen the chance of this breast cancer coming back.
What are some ways that you participate or getting out the message as far as awareness for breast cancer?
Yeah, I have. I put messages out on my TikTok. I've put messages out on Twitter and Facebook. And right now, to be honest with you, I'm currently talking to 4 people who are going through breast cancer now. So this is my way of giving back. And these are complete strangers who have found me on social media. If you're going through breast cancer treatments, the first thing you have to do is to have a positive mindset. Because if you go into this thinking, the treatments aren't going to work, or, thinking about things negative, you are not going to handle this well. I'm like, you have to find whatever it is that makes you happy, go to your happy place. There was plenty of times when I was depressed and I pretend I was in Turks and Caicos, at my favorite place on earth. I'm just like, oh, I could see the beach and the sand and I could hear the ocean. You have to like bring it upon yourself to find your happy place, no matter what you're going through.
Thanks again to Sonia Goins for sharing her remarkable story. Sonia had so much more to say, so please check out our YouTube channel, Atlanta Association of Black Journalists, for the entire full interview. Coming up, breast cancer also affects men. While the statistics are low, medical experts still want to spread the message of early detection. Plus, Dr. Jade Jones, breast medical oncologist at the Winship Cancer Institute of Emory University, is here to speak more about that battle against breast cancer. So don't go away, we'll be right back. There's a little myth out there that says only women can get breast cancer, and that's actually not the case. Even though the statistics are relatively low, men can also get diagnosed as well. In Contact's Tyreek Wynn joins us now in studio with a special report. Tyreek.
Thanks, Paisley. I went out to Riverdale, Georgia to talk to a man who was near and dear to my heart, my grandpa. He was diagnosed with breast cancer and beat it. When I asked if he'd speak to us about his recovery, he was pleased to share his story. I went over to my grandparents' house to talk to my grandpa about his journey to becoming cancer-free. Last year around Thanksgiving, my grandpa, Emmanuel Garrett, or as I like to call him, Grand Manny, felt something a little unusual around his chest area, and he began to get concerned.
I had noticed something felt a little funny, like lumpy in my chest area. And I mentioned it to my wife, and of course her response was, first of all, we going to the doctor right away. We went to the doctor, and once we went to the primary care physician, she also did an exam. So I was all reluctant at first because for a male, it's kind of a scary thing, but I just went through the process because I knew in the long run it would be best. When the doctor did do her diagnosis, it indicated male breast cancer. And at that particular time, they said it was second stage. So I knew I did the right thing by following my wife's advice. And the doctor said, good thing you did.
When Grand Manny received the diagnosis, he informed the family about what was going on, and it came as a surprise to all of us.
Grandma, my wife, your grandmama, she was, first of all, shocked. And I think due to the fact it was male breast cancer, and it's fairly rare, she was glad that she made the reaction of sending me to my primary care physician. And she felt so much better when they had a plan. And when they develop a plan of attack attacking this cancerous situation in a male. Of course, the first thing I did, I started calling my children, and when I told my daughter, my oldest daughter, she just started crying. And that's when I had to step in to assure her that all the processes had been followed. Doctors had indicated what to do. And basically, I was holding on to my faith. Because during that time, when you tell your children and your grandchildren things of that nature, I'm sure it's shocking to them.
A good way to beat breast cancer is by having early detection of it. When the doctors detected Grandma Manny's breast cancer, it was at a low stage.
I was fortunate. And when I say overcome it, I was very fortunate in the fact that when they did discover it, it was stage 2. And they knew that was in the November 21. And they scheduled me for surgery 10th of December. I can remember it like yesterday, actually 10th of January 2022. So that was earlier this year in 22. And so what they did, they scheduled me for that. And after that, it was just the test they revealed after the surgery, which was successful in removing the lump or the mass that was found in the left male breast. So they did remove it. The physician felt very, very confident. So the diagnosis after that was that you should be good. Now, months after that, I had a follow-up, and the blood tests and all those indicated that I would not need chemotherapy, nor would I need a radiation. And again, prayer and the Lord's blessing and touching and healing my body, that was my faith.
After they removed the cancer from his body, he had to do more regularly scheduled doctor's visits to make sure everything is up to par.
It was every month. And after that, 3 months. And now everything was going so well, it's every 6 months. And that 6-month period actually comes up in October.
He also says in the end, the Lord has the final say.
I did go to prayer on my knees and told the Lord about it. So I felt good going into there because I felt I had the Lord by my side.
When it comes to going to the doctor, that can be a little scary for some men. Grandma Manny says it's important to make your health a priority.
Sometimes you can wait too late. So that's my advice to men. You want to go ahead and make that move. All it is, it's an inquiry at your primary care physician. It's just, it don't stop you from being all male, but it could save your life. Early diagnosis could save your life.
That is some great advice right there, and I'm very glad and thankful that Grandpa beat cancer and is doing well. Back to you, Paisley.
Thanks, Tyreek. We appreciate your grandfather sharing his story. Coming up, a talk with oncologist Dr. Jade Jones of the Winship Cancer Institute of Emory University. Don't go away. We'll be right back. Welcome back to In Contact, Atlanta Association of Black Journalists award-winning public affairs program. Today we're discussing breast cancer awareness. And joining us now is Dr. Jade Jones, oncologist with the Winship Cancer Institute of Emory University in Atlanta. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. I'm really happy to be here.
We really appreciate your expertise. And to kick off this month, awareness is popping off around the country. What is the importance of self-checks and mammograms?
So self-checks and mammograms are so important, specifically even mammograms, because breast cancer is one of the few cancers that we can catch early. So before it spreads to a distant site like the brain or the lung. And so if we can catch it early, we can do treatment to try to cure the patient or get rid of the cancer. So it's just so important that women are getting their mammograms because that prevention can be very impactful for their life.
Okay, you talk about prevention, starting with a group that seems to have experiencing aggressive forms of breast cancer more so than others. Can you talk to us about what that group is?
Yeah.
And, what they should do as far as prevention.
Yeah, so, people of African descent are at a higher risk of death due to breast cancer compared to our non-Hispanic Caucasian counterparts. So, over the last decades, the survival rates of breast cancer have actually improved with new treatments. Unfortunately, Black women are still almost 50% times more likely to die of breast cancer despite those improvements in treatments.
Okay, and so as part of the prevention method or even detection, you talked about mammograms. Now, I did speak to a woman who told us 3D mammograms are actually helped save her life because it was able to see something deeper. Can you talk to us about the difference between a regular mammogram and 3D mammograms?
A traditional mammogram is a 2D mammogram. It's kind of like an X-ray. It's kind of how many views you can get. A 3D mammogram takes more views, so more views of the breast makes maybe a higher chance that they're able to see a mass that maybe not seen on a regular normal 2D mammogram. That being said, not all centers provide 3D mammograms. They are a little bit harder to come by. So I feel any mammogram is better than no mammogram.
And as you mentioned, the group African American women, does diet play any impact on?
Yeah, currently, diet itself hasn't been shown to be a strong risk factor for breast cancer, but being overweight and being obese actually is a risk factor for breast cancer. So, I tell my women who may be overweight or obese in terms of what they can do for prevention. And so that is, I wouldn't say a diet. I would say a lifestyle change, right? Diets are more so, 30 days I lose weight for something, but, not eating processed foods, eating healthier foods in terms of like vegetables, things that are not fried. So things that you can actually continue for your life and so that you can lose weight is very helpful in terms of risk reduction for breast cancer. The other thing is exercise. So even if you're not overweight, exercising at least 3 times a week has shown to be protective in terms of breast cancer risk. The most common breast cancer is a form called hormone receptor positive breast cancer. That's about 80% of breast cancer. The other 2 are HER2 positive breast cancer, and the third form is a triple negative breast cancer. Black women are more likely to be diagnosed with triple negative breast cancer, and that is the more aggressive form. By aggressive, I mean it's the higher risk of recurrence despite treatment and the highest risk of death within the first 3 years of the diagnosis. And that is probably one factor pushing our mortality rate to be higher than our non-Hispanic counterparts.
Okay, and talking about another group that doesn't get that much light when it comes to breast cancer is men. What's the recommendation for men? Because as far as preventive cancer, they don't do screenings?
Yeah, so we don't do mammograms or, ultrasounds on men. So it's rare, but it definitely can occur. I think that people always know that Beyonce's father had breast cancer. The greatest risk for male breast cancer is a genetic mutation, the BRCA mutation that we talked about earlier. So family history, they need to know about that mutation. If their father or grandfather has it, then they need to be tested as well. And then just not to ignore, when women get a lump on their breast, they're more likely to tell their doctor. And I've had patients, males, get a lump on their breast, they present to the doctor 6-7 months later, or even sometimes a year later, because they just thought it was a muscle spasm or something else.
So you said the lump, getting to the symptoms. What are some other things they should be on the lookout for?
So rash. So you may not have any lump at all, and you just may have a rash on your breast that's not going away. Don't ignore it. Go see your doctor. And that's the same thing with women. Sometimes breast cancer can be a lump in your breast, and sometimes it can be a rash. So if you develop something on your chest, if you're a male, or in your breast in terms of rash, go see your doctor. Don't ignore that, and don't delay treatment.
And we want to obviously end on a positive note. October being Breast Cancer Awareness Month for years and years now. So in addition to spreading awareness, let's talk about the improvements being made. Any better days ahead, I'm sure.
So 2022 is an exciting year for breast cancer. So stage 4 breast cancer is the one where the cancer has spread beyond the bone in the lung. And, we have therapies, but sometimes the therapies for certain cancers are limited. So in 2022, we recently got approved a drug called Enhertu that was traditionally used in the HER2 positive breast cancer. But now that we found that it's effective in some triple negative and hormone receptor positive women with something called low HER2. And it really, we presented it at our conference this past June, and it got a standing ovation because the results of this study were so much more impactful in terms of how long women were living and improved outcomes compared to the standard of care treatment. So
it helped with the life expectancy?
Exactly. It helped with the life expectancy in our stage 4 patients. So I don't know the exact numbers on top of my head, but it did improve it by months. And you may say like, oh, only by months, but in a stage 4 patient where we can't cure you, that is impactful. So I'm really excited about Enhertu. I've already started using it on my patients in that category. but I'm also excited of what's to come. So more similar drugs that are being made, just like in HER2, are a little bit different, are already, we have clinical trials at Emory and across the country. So, you know, I was able to tell a patient after that conference who was in that low HER2, I now have an additional therapy for you. And she was so excited to hear that. And
was that a trial? Is it in trial or just?
Yeah, so and HER2 is out. They're doing some trials with it where they're combining with other drugs, but it's on the market now.
Okay.
But you're right. Before it was approved, it started in trial. So that's why when I tell women who are, especially my stage 4 patients, and I bring up the trial, sometimes, you know, as people who are minority, we're a little bit hesitant. You know, I've heard this phrase, I don't want to be a guinea pig. But I try to encourage them. All the drugs you're receiving were on trial one day.
That's right.
And I would never recommend, I can't promise them they're going to work, but I would never recommend a drug that I thought was going to be harmful to them.
Right.
And so it's really just building that trust with that patient, so that they know that your recommendation, whether they is something that could possibly work and help them. So it's really, I think what's happening right now is really exciting, and I'm looking forward to the future of breast cancer care.
Dr. J. Jones, thank you so much
no
for the
problem.
work that you're doing, and we appreciate you stopping by today to give us more information. Again, guys, that was Dr. J. Jones, oncologist at Emory University, our special guest on today's show. Now, as of you, there's so many ways to get involved and spread awareness. Please stay connected to and like us at Atlanta Association of Black Journalists, or on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and on our YouTube channel. You can find links there. You can also check out komen.org for more information. We'll see you right back here next month.